day 3. We haven't got to Old San Juan. We get there at 3 o'clock and we're having some lunch right now at the Eden Cafe. And Lovey just got me this salad. Looks so good. It's the ancient grains. Looks delicious. And then a blueberry, right? That's blueberry?
Chocolate chip cookie.
Delicious. And then you got some chips, and look at our back, look at our view.
Puerto Rico, esta bomba yo la dedico a toda mi gente de Puerto Rico, a la familia Fontanet, allá en Cupe Alto y lo Mejía en Vega Baja. Que goce.
This is the gangway to grab the Celebrity Edge. So modern. So you got all your last minute tours right here if you want to grab any more tours. And this is where we're going right here, Old San Juan. Old San Juan with us. Check this out. The famous Jack Sparrow is with us. And I think the redhead's here too.
First of all, let me tell you something about Jack. He stole my ship and he sunk it.
We're meeting with Spoon Food Tours at 5:30 for a sunset walk and taste tour of Old San Juan. We have a couple hours before the tour to explore the town, so let's go. We're on day 3, Old San Juan. And then we're gonna do the Spoon Food Tour. Are you ready, Lovey? So this is the famous spot right here with all the umbrellas. This is where everyone's coming. When you get here, this is the best IG picture and IG stories to take right here. In this spot. All the buildings are so colorful. You got yellow, blue, green. You got the pinks. And then I love all the balconies. Look at all the balconies up there. Where the piña colada was born, 1963, la casa donde nació la piña colada.
And she walked in the place. I knew her smile in an instant.
I love all these buildings, the green, the purple, the blue. You see our cruise ship, the Celebrity Edge. Check this out. Oh, this is part of the fort.
Welcome to Spoon Food Tours. Welcome to Puerto Rico. So, a little bit later in today's tour, we're actually going to be passing by the X marks the spot. The brick that we know is when Ponce de Leon moved the city over in the year 1511, he chose that position. And it's remarkable. From that spot, it's like they dropped a compass right on top of it. And the north, south, east, west axis was fixed for the entire city. As you go through the intersections, as you get farther away from Calle Cristo, you notice that at the intersections you have the cardinal directions are directly there. And it's all because the X marks the spot is so perfectly in accordance to that. San Francisco Street, of all the streets in San Juan, I'm not going to have you memorize half the Catholic canon. But San Francisco is quite important to remember because it is in fact the artery of San Juan. When you look at the maps of the city, the farthest eastern point is where the eastern city gate was. So all the avenues that lead into San Juan turn into San Francisco Street, where you can clearly see here it runs one way from east to west till it dies at the western city wall. So if you're ever feeling turned around, if you're ever feeling lost within the city, the farthest you can be is 3 streets away from San Francisco. Now, if I may, since the breeze is so firmly with us, I'd love to introduce to you one of the main characters in today's tour, if I may, the trade wind. Very literally, you could argue how the shape of our history is in fact shaped by this wind. If it were not for this trade wind, all of the voyagers during the age of exploration would not have made Puerto Rico be, as it became, the gateway to the Americas. Family enterprise. Isn't this gorgeous? Right by the flowers here, if I may. The chocolate company was manufacturing since 1929. They're one of the largest chocolate manufacturers in the Caribbean. They've been selling cocoa to everyone. The sweet. So it's almost like a sweet and salty with a sour and sweet mix there. What really comes across is a texture of creaminess, just a really soft, smooth, and then that turns into a sweetness. This is a very traditional, think of it like a mid-morning snack or an early afternoon. There's a phrase that we have for this type of snack in Spanish and in Puerto Rico. We call it a tentempié, which is that which keeps you on your feet.
Choco, 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 everybody say a chocolate.
That's crazy, everyone's drinking the same thing.
I know, is that crazy? Is that crazy? You done for the day, Brian?
I am, are you guys having fun? You got a great guy here. Not just a sharp dresser, but knowledgeable. I saw you on YouTube being interviewed for something. Chris and I were, thank you so much.
El sin alcohol está la Martina. Sí, la que no está.
Chocolate with cheese, pretty good.
Now there's a phrase that applies all throughout Puerto Rico, all throughout Latin America. Whenever we go to have a meal together, whenever we break bread, think of it more that way. There's a phrase we say, and listen for it in service situations, because it is very much hardwired into our culture. And the phrase is, buen provecho. So, buen provecho. Provecho, nowadays, you open up crack a dictionary for it, benefit. It's kind of weak. That you benefit from your meal. It's like a cheap bon appetit there. Then you go a little bit deeper into the history there and you get fortune. It's a little bit nicer. I wish unto you good fortune, right? Then you get all the way to the bottom, that archaic meaning, you expand that out and it says chocolate.
Choco, choco, chocolate.
The company started in 1929.
Oh, 1929.
This is the reading room of which I was speaking.
Oh, that's the reading room.
This is the handwritten letter I was describing.
No way.
These are the books.
So those are the books that were in the chocolate?
Those are the books that were in the chocolate story that I just said. These are the covers to those books as such. And yeah, this is the selection. You'll notice that it's fairy tales. So we've got Snow White and Thumbelina, fairly classic stories, and other more like local Spanish stories.
Oh, nice. Do they still have the chocolates? Can you get a chocolate?
No, the company folded. Those books are no longer
that would
made.
be so nice if they were still in there.
The idea is that each of these bars makes 2 cups of hot cocoa. So the promo was always 1 equals 2, 1 equals 2. It's a bowl that has the Cortés over the years, the Cortés family, of course. Chocolate has always been from the very beginning, but they've certainly made other products, including perfumery, they've made rum, chocolate, that's coffee.
I just want to stay here. It's so nice.
Are the classic product. Historically, the yellow bar, when you unwrap it, will have a lot of little bars within them. Each of those little bars are meant to be melted down into 2 cups of hot cocoa, right? So you can eat them direct, but you'll find that it has an unusual taste. You'll find it'll be like a dark chocolate. It'll be very sweet and it'll be somewhat grainy.
Yeah.
You'll get literally like a graininess in it, almost like a little grit or sand. Is that since it's a partially processed cocoa for all intents and purposes, you actually get little bits of salt, little bits of cocoa actually come out of it. The bottom part includes the cinnamon. Again, these are generally for hot cocoa. Now in the top are the actual candy bars they've started developing. On the left hand are the milk chocolate base. These are very accessible, barely a buck each. And then on the right hand, those Corteza line, that's more of their fine line of chocolates. The lighter cream colored are milk chocolate, the darker colored are the dark chocolates, of course. Because the concept itself is fairly simple, and it's been just an absolute hit in terms of the taste. You're taking a small Hass avocado and you're cutting it in half and you're adding in fixings, and then the fixings you're adding are pretty much the heritage of like Puerto Rican cuisine. So we have like our pernil, which is our version of the roast pork shoulder, and it's not just any ground beef, it's like the traditional picadillo with all the sofrito flavoring in there and so on and so forth. So it's fairly easy in that sense because you already have so much like wealth of flavor to lean on. With Puerto Rican cuisine, it was fairly easy to then apply almost like a Subway concept to it and have it be very, very massively successful and very healthy as well. So the dish we're going to be having, since we are going to be having some old school pernil at our next partner restaurant, we're now going to have some of their classic picadillo. So this will be their their ground beef stuffed avocado bowl as such. And we're pairing it off with an agua fresca. Agua fresca is a very simple concept, just fruit-infused waters. And in this case, these guys always have on deck, they have orange, pineapple, ginger, and then they have cucumber, watermelon, and mint, and those two are always available. So let me hand off our tasting here. It's a fairly simple tasting, obviously very, very tasty, and of course expand out of its history a little bit.
So there's avocado and there's picadillo, which is beef, and then they got pieces of plantain. It's delicious. Everything they do here is with avocado. The avocado's on the bottom. You see it? It is delicious.
When it's black and super sweet, you think how different fruits affect your blood sugar?
What movies have
Oh,
you been?
myself?
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean?
Extras, always extras. Pirates of the Caribbean. Did Crank, one of the Crank ones, apparently I was an extra in, at least that was what the check said. And what was the other one recently? It was a pirate show, and I can't remember the name of it. I was just extra in one of the episodes, but it was filming for a while here, right by the coast. It's this Virna's kitchen. She writes it as a restaurant, but she insists it's not a restaurant, it's my kitchen. Because she had to have a family reunion so she could secure the blessing of great-grandpa to use the family cookbook to build the menus here. Also, she corrects everyone. It's listed as a restaurant, but the category is officially a fonda, which is a very archaic kind of cafeteria type setup that we'd have here in Puerto Rico during the rapid industrialization. So let's grab ourselves a seat here as I share out some of the flavors. Ever heard of that phrase before? The West Indies pepper pots?
Oh, there's the kebab. My grandmother used to make these all the time, and then some pork on the side. Let's try it.
Now indeed.
Okay. So far, the spoon food tours has been amazing. Everything is so delicious, and I am in love with that chocolate martini. That's delicious, so good. Let's see where we're gonna go next. Let's go. Let's catch up.
San Jose Street is important. Every year, this serves as the main causeway, like the on-ramp, you could say, for our major carnival. You see, Puerto Ricans have a reputation of partying at the drop of a hat, keeping the party going year-round. Well, we've worked it into our religion, let's say, or we've worked it into our politics. So we've got 78 municipalities. The island of Puerto Rico is divided into 78 municipalities, each of which has a patron saint. Every year, on the night of San Juan, on the night of St. John the Baptist, the capital city should be having its major shindig, right? But St. John the Baptist is very specific. On the night of St. John the Baptist, you gather your friends and family, and you gather everyone by the edge of a body of water, and as midnight approaches, you drop yourselves backwards and 7 times to ask for the protection and blessing of the patron saint for the upcoming year. 3.5 million people on an island in the middle of summer, and they have to drop themselves backwards into a body of water. Where does the San Juan festival happen in Puerto Rico? It's a beach party. It's a state-approved, church-sanctioned, grandmas and babies midnight beach party. So everyone in San Juan on that night the city's empty. So we use St. Sebastian as our proxy. That top of the street is St. Sebastian Street, and St. Sebastian is like the epicenter of our nightlife, of our downtown area. You're looking at that orange building on the right-hand side that happens to be the top. Top 36 out of the top 50 bars in the world. It's called La Factoria, right there on the top right corner, the orange building. Right in front of La Factoria is Taberna Lúpulo, the people who very literally 9 years ago brought craft beers to the island. 10 years ago, the list of beers on the island, you guys all know it off the top of your head. It's the Chili's list. It's the Chili's list. You go to any Chili's of the land, you open it up, you go to the back and you have Bud, you got Coors, you got Heineken, you got Miller, right? You get real fancy, you get a Foster's in there. And I'm like, yes! That was it. Our entire island, that would be all the beers that were available, period. The Chili's list was it. And then Taberna Lúpulo showed up and started calling the craft breweries. We call them the market makers. When Taberna Lúpulo opened its doors, we had one microbrewery in the island. There's now 13.
Nice.
So they've created a craft beer scene, and a whole bunch of microbreweries have jumped in. Plus, we have a really ample representation from the United States as well. So again, I'm pointing it out because that's where it's at. I know that downtowns are usually, down. In this case, our downtown is actually up at the top of the hill. So every year, hundreds of thousands of guests come up this street, heading to that intersection. The cats of San Juan are part of our heritage.
Look at the kitty,
Jocos
he's
that as
sleeping.
Ponce de Leon brought the rats, they also brought the cats to catch them with. But
He's
the cats have
sleeping.
stuck
Yeah,
around.
he's
They
so
become an
cute, kitty.
iconic thing of the city. There's an organization that takes care of the cats. The current incarnation is called the Save a Gato Foundation. That's a cute organization. So most of the kitties of San Juan, if you take a good look at their ear, you're going to notice they're always going to have one tip that's been clipped. Means they are successful, by their own words, successful graduates of the Save a Gato program. That means these kids have all had their shots, they've been fully sterilized, and they've been fully vaccinated. So the cats of San Juan, in that sense, don't really afford like a threat. They're not really a risk. They're not truly feral cats. They're kind of more pets to the city, and of course you'll see the bowls of food and water all throughout as well. Now in front of us we have the home of Mr. Fountain of Youth, Mr. Juan Ponce de Leon. I'm not going to paint this guy in glowing terms because his history, same as Columbus, has been revisited and put into its proper kind of brutal historic context. But De Leon, nevertheless, honor where honor is due, was quite important for our development. He's the guy that saw the value of the island before anyone else. As the Spanish were focusing their efforts on expanding and kind of getting a grip on how large this region was, Ponce saw and realized that this spot was going to be the key to the Americas. The easternmost of the Greater Antilles with a really deep water harbor, naturally protected by a really narrow mouth, on an islet with freshwater supplies right nearby. Like everything to him, it just clicked. So he's the one that originally attempted to build the city on the southern side of the bay. And barely 2 years in, saw it wasn't going to work out, and they moved the city over. So he moves the city over, gets this one going, gets it profitable, and then a lawyer showed up. Ponce, buddy. Been doing a great job in San Juan, seriously, top-notch efforts. But there's been a case back in Spain, and Diego Colón, the son of Christopher Columbus, has sued the king and won. So you're no longer the governor of Puerto Rico, so sorry. What would you wish for in return as compensation? So he asked, well, I've been raised to the nobility, so grant me this land in perpetuity for my family. And then the second asked, heard of this Fountain of Youth place, and I want to go see what that's all about. So it took him a few years, and finished building this, pulled in his eldest daughter, his eldest son, kind of gathered his family here, established him, pulled out his best sailors from the government. Of course, he'd staffed the government with his guys, so pulled them out, got him on ships, and went over to southeastern United States, where he, soon after he arrived during the time of Easter. So he arrives in the shores, and he calls it the land of the blooming Easter flower, La Tierra de la Pascua Florida. We're still calling it that to this day. Indeed, St. Augustine, but not the St. Augustine we know today. St. Augustine was moved 3 times in its history. He founded the first location, which quickly didn't work out either. A theme.
Yeah,
now, after his arrival there, he got hit by a native arrow through his, very literally shafted. Not just in the guy goes for surgery in Cuba, 1524. I don't know what they meant to do, but whatever they tried didn't work. He asked on his dying breath to be brought back home. So indeed, his remains rest under the northern nave of the Cathedral of San Juan, and the home remained in the De Leon family for 4 generations. Now dynasties fade eventually, unless you take extreme incestuous measures. So usually, of course, it faded out. Other military families took over. Nowadays, it's a museum, beautiful history museum. It actually has I only did it once, and I'm working to see if I can include it more regularly, but technically this thing has the oldest kitchen in the Americas, like extant. The original design and original. So I once did an activity at the oldest kitchen in the Americas, but I want to incorporate it in the tour more regularly, so see if I can work it so that guests can actually, so food tour, not just nerd out on the history of the ingredients, but like, look, this is how we cooked.
That would be...
Wouldn't that be awesome? But in this case, you also had to be the sample, so... I felt it. But as we get a little bit closer, there's some remarkable views down from this little plaza. Yeah, this is the oldest executive mansion in continuous use in the Americas.
Really?
Yeah, since it was designed out in 1539 through today, it has held every single governor that has ruled over this land, every single Spanish, every single U.S. appointed from 1898 through 1947, and from 47 through today, every democratically elected Puerto Rican has made that home and office, uninterrupted through it. Now, you mentioned earlier something about the bricks, and I was waiting for a good opportunity. I usually, the blue brick question has a bit of an exhaustive answer. I'm giving it as a caveat, because I'm on, as an AMC newsroom, I'm on a mission to civilize. I'm trying to debunk something. These bricks, when you ask about these blue bricks, the shoot from the hip answer that most people will get is that these were ballast stones. That when the ships were decommissioned at their end of life, then the stones would be quarried down into these brick shapes. Now, I don't know how that story got going, but it has indeed been repeated so often that it's kind of gotten that momentum. It's gotten that own internal momentum. But we know very, very clearly and very detailed exactly where their provenance is from. These bricks, believe it or not, are British bricks. These be British bricks. Not just British bricks, these actually are Liverpool bricks. These are Beetle bricks. Beetle British bricks. Again, I don't know where they stood in relation to this point, but we do know through quite a bit of effort that they must have said at some point, this looks good. Let's move the city here. And this is in fact the X marks the spot. The X marks the spot. The brick that we know is when Ponce de Leon moved the city over in the year 1511, he chose that position. Between this brick and the metal plate, the circle that's described here, it's like a 2-foot circle. From this spot, it's like they dropped the compass right here. So you'll notice if I glance to the north, I'm in the exact middle of the first north-south street in the city. Now, he shall come with the sunrise, he shall come from the east. You'll notice I'm lined up, not with the door, I'm lined up with the altar inside the Cathedral of San Juan. And if it were not for the cars to my left here, to true west, we have the doors to the city. The gates that for 300 years the letter of the law said, there you drop off your wife and children, then any wealth you had gathered for the crown. Well, let's let's go off the route here a little bit, but I've been doing this for a bunch of years now, and this gate is never open at night. So this is very literally the first time I've ever stepped in here at night with a group. So let's gather right over here. I usually speak of this a little bit farther down, but I can speak of it here with much better line of sight.
Wow.
Now you can see why the governor's mansion was built right on the corner of this little islet here. Now I'd be remiss to be the tour guide that walks you by the Guinness Book of World Records, world's narrowest two-story residential building in an urban setting, and not point it out. Now this was originally an aristocratic home that had kind of tried to set this up as servants' quarters. So it has the detail that it is barely 5 feet wide by 36 feet deep by 15 feet in height, by 2 because it is 2 stories. But let's just say Murphy beds, kind of no other furniture, the stairs kind of scary. The owner said that he's going to be putting it on Airbnb. He keeps saying that. It's been like 3 years now, and I keep looking at the bookings, and I'm not seeing it because I'm hankering to have a cup of coffee in a terry bathrobe, staring out on that beautiful harbor. I want that experience for even if it's just one time. I want that for myself, and I've yet to have it happen. Alright, now we're going to do top left corner over here. The top row are the sorbets, and the bottom rows are the more gelato, the more ice cream pops. The bottom ones melt quite a bit faster than the top. Now the top left, we've got strawberry mojito, and then we've got strawberry and mango. We get 2 flavors in one. We've got strawberry lemonade, mixed fruit. Dice melón, pero no tienes ninguno, ¿verdad? We've got melon, watermelon in the back. We've got guava. We've got passion fruit. We've got pineapple of the sugar-free selections. Rellena is interesting. Banana on the outside, Nutella on the inside, and over here, strawberry on the outside, Nutella on the inside. It's as delicious.
Yeah, guayaba, sweetie.
Strawberry. Por aquí tienen Oreo. Mojito. Por acá, provecho. Passion fruit.
Passion fruit? I'm going to take the passion fruit.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Por acá.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, I love how when you go into like organic
OMG, passion fruit is delicious.
Shield for the city. You see that in the Catholic religion, the symbol for St. John the Baptist is what they call the rampant lamb. So it's the standing lamb with the pennant over his shoulder, because he's the herald to the coming of the Agnus Dei, of the sacrificial lamb of Jesus Christ. So when you look, when we started off our tour in front of City Hall, there's a stone plaque embedded in the building with this symbol. Or if the wind was good and the flags unfurled, you'd see that above City Hall, the rightmost flag would be this white background with the rampant lamb sitting on the little stone. With, again, even though it's just a city, you see how it's not a crown, it's just the forts. That's because, again, of the rank, the 5 ranks of the capitanship of San Juan as such. So little symbols, little iconographies that still have quite a bit of meaning. Now, this is our actual last partner restaurant for tonight. One of the cool elements that Princesa offers is that they're actually serving a dish that's called from a menu that was developed in 1859. They use the oldest Puerto Rican cookbook, El Cocinero Puertorriqueño of 1859, and we ran a bunch of those older recipes and tried them in different ways to see which would best appeal. The one we're going to be tasting is drawn directly from that 1859 cookbook. And also, we are going to be having a bit of a last cocktail here. Table here on our left-hand side. Now, most of rum history, this was rum. Light amber, and then if you age it further, añejo. Then the new kid on the block is white rum. I didn't bring any of the bottles out here, but I can safely say a world without white rum, 1971. The day before yesterday, that was the other day. Rum sales were impacted very, very badly in the early 70s through vodka. vodka started this massive marketing campaign against the pirates.
The rum!
Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
No gentleman would be caught dead drinking the pirates. No lady would sully the temple of her body with the pirates. The darker the color, the more toxins. It's unfiltered, it's raw. That's why it makes you so crazy. That's why it gets you so wrong. And it worked. Rum sales, Illinois, 73, 6,000 cases of rum the whole year. For the whole year, that's like a season. That's like a couple months usually in standard liquor sales. So that's how little rum was selling until they developed the activated charcoal filter.
That's our mojito.
Nowadays, we've replaced it with a fish that we can get locally. So we can get grouper from right there. So that's what we're serving. Local grouper that's been bought from a fishery in the Folsom.
So this is our last meal. Boy, we've eaten a lot. It's delicious.
Now the chickpeas are... There is a phrase very near to my heart that I always share at the end of our experiences, that we're not slated as a concierge service. When you look us up, we're a boutique food tour company. But we often end up fulfilling out that role like concierge service. So questions, doubts, recommendations specifically to you guys, we can talk now at the end. Don't hesitate to reach out. You have our contact email, info@spoonfoodtours. If you guys have any questions for myself about the tour, beyond the tour, anything related to Puerto Rico, Pablo at Spoonfood Tours, and I answer those directly from my cell phone. I do remain at your service in that sense. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, both now and in any other further trip you find yourself on the island. We'd love to be your local contact. You know, we're always hooked onto something. There's always something going on. We'd love to share that with you guys.
Okay, we just finished Spoon Food Tours. That was amazing. I definitely recommend it. So when you board the ship Celebrity Edge and you get here at Old San Juan, make sure you have it booked. Spoon Food Tours, and we'll put the link below. We loved it. Wasn't it amazing, Lovey?
It's awesome.
It was awesome. Definitely recommend. ETT recommendation. This concludes our stop at Old San Juan. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We had great views entering the port and a very informative food tour by Spoon Food Tours. Stay tuned for the next port, which we will be in Tortola. Love my ETT squad.